Hello, AlephYa here again, and today I want to talk a bit about my most recent deck that won me the Obelisk 8 tournament. Actually, I played pretty much the same deck also in the leading up Ra and Slifer leagues. So I went 3-0 in Slifer, 3-0 in Ra, and to wrap it up 4-1 in the Obelisk, which makes a total record of 10-1 with this deck, which is pretty good, I'd say. So I also really liked the deck. It's kind of similar to the Cold Wave Monarch decks that I ran recently, but this one I'd call Cold Wave Zoo for obvious reasons. It's way more aggressive than the Monarch builds. I'm only running 2 Monarchs, the 2 Mobius. The Mobius Cold Wave synergy is still really, really good, but I don't have the Peyton or the obvious Gravekeeper Spies to make for great free tribute fodder, really. And I don't really want to sacrifice one of my beaters for Mobius. That's like a suboptimal play in my opinion. Also, I'm playing the 3 Berserk Gorillas, which kind of the core for Zoo strategy, in my opinion. The Berserks are great to run over like basically anything, over Kaikus, skill ducks sometimes, like Breaker with counter or without. They're just not really helpful against the Spy in defense. Spy is a card that really walls this deck, unfortunately, but yeah, there's still a couple ways to maneuver around that. Then I'm playing 2 DD Assailants, playing them because they are Earth, even though they obviously don't always end up in the graveyard to be shifted for Gigantes, but still more often than not that happens. The 1 Exiled Force, really helpful most of the time with reinforcements of the army. I will search the Exiled Force, nuke a monster, and set up for a Gigantes play later. It's a nice tempo play. The Gigantes can be tributed for Mobius, obviously, or what's really nice is like if you activate Cold Wave, summon a Mobius, ideally over Sangan or like even something else, and then have the Gigantes as a follow-up that's like pressuring with 2 strong monsters under, and having the opponent under Cold Wave lock is really good. Most of the time it should be enough to win. If you have like any follow-up for your next turn, that should be game. And the 1 Embodiment of Apophis as a trap card is fulfills a similar purpose as Gigantes. It's also like 1 extra summon that you can chain to your Cold Wave activation. Just pressuring with multiple monsters under Cold Wave. That's the whole idea. And I'm obviously also running again the 2 Cybersteins. Cyberstein or Cold Wave into Cyberstein, still very strong. Or nuking the back row of the opponent with Mobius or Breaker and under Cold Wave, and then having the Stein as a follow-up is really good. What I ideally like to do with this deck is like play aggressive, give the opponent like ideally 2 to 3 hits with monsters, like chip damage. And then when the resources are grinded down a bit, like on both sides, then I'm trying to finish the game with Cyberstein while my life is still quite high. So that there's no room for like chaos decks or so to make their card advantage count too much. I'm trying to close it out, to close the game out before they just move ahead with card advantage and just let you suffer. The Raigeki breaks as a trap card. It's very versatile. Obviously, most of the time it's a clear -1 with this deck. You don't always have the Sinister Serpent, but Chain to a Cold Wave, that's should allow you some plays to immediately get the -1 back, even though Cold Wave is obviously also just a pure -1, but you will have the situation to run over 1 or 2 monsters of the opponent most of the time. Abyss Soldier is a card that's better in theory than in practice, I'd say, for me at least. Under Cold Wave, he should be like super good to bounce basically anything from the opponent for a clear field or back row, but I have to say I most of the time only used him as a beat stick. I rarely had a Sinister to go with Abyss for some meaningful plays, so there might be room to replace him with something more Earth-like, to maybe even throw in a third Gigantis, because as of now I don't have enough Earth monsters to support 3 Gigantis. The Cyberjar is something I just threw in for Obelisk. I didn't play before. I would kick it out again probably. Like Cold Wave Cyberjar allows for some stupid plays, but it's the only flip monster and obviously makes my opponent's Nox alive. And without it I would almost never have to set a monster, so this might be a kick again. Then the tomatoes are something that I switched back and forth a bit. Sometimes, or like in one of the leagues at least, I played Giant Rats over it because they were Earth and to support the Gigantis, but I found myself to only be able to search like the Exile Force. You could play Lily, but I didn't really like Lily with the Cybersteins, so that's 2 life points, 2 life expensive, too many pay cards. And Tomato allows for some cool plays. If you get a Tomato run over and search for Cyberstein, you can, if it survives in your turn, like go off with a Steen and later tribute it for Mobius, or search Sangan, tribute it for Mobius, and search a Steen to follow up with in the next turn or something similar. I think Tomato is the better choice here, to be honest. Then yeah, the one Brain Control is something I like. Even though I only play 2 tribute monsters, Brain is quite often useful to finish a game, to close it out, to get around Chaos monsters, as tribute fodder, or like maybe the opponent has some tribe infecting virus laying around and you can abuse that, or there's many situations where Brain is more useful than you'd expect. Yes. Sideboard, obviously my 3 Royal Decrees, always running that. Won me also quite a few games, I have to say. Against warrior decks, I bring them in most of the time. Also, in the same moment, I'd side in the 2 Book of Moons as my little defense. The Brain Control, and most of the time Mobius and even Jinzo, so that I'm playing very aggressively under my decree, so that I bank on my opponent not having any counters to that. The Kaikus, sometimes against Chaos Warriors, against Chaos decks for sure. The Nobleman, the sideboard, you definitely need that against Chaos decks, Chaos Control, or anything that plays Spy or Decoichi. You have to get rid of that and get the chip damage from your betas in. You definitely need to win fast, or otherwise you're just doomed. That's one of the more tougher matchups, definitely. Against Warriors, the main deck does pretty well, and with the sideboard, obviously, you're even better off, I'd say, against warrior decks. But chaos decks are rather tricky. If you can't win fast enough, it's gonna get pretty iffy. Azura priests are, against Code Control, anything that plays, maybe even against Reasoning Gate Turbo, anything that plays goats, you also want to get rid of them as fast as possible, because if the game takes too long, you're probably not gonna make it. In the end, I'd say this deck is really good. I think it's not optimal as of yet, but there are some possibilities for improvement still, and I definitely would consider running it again. I'm not sure if it's better than the Kodoi Monarch deck, but at least on par. Maybe it's even a little bit better because it's a bit more consistent, obviously. Yes, in the end, once again, thanks for Jinzo&Tonic for sharing his platform, or allowing me to use his platform for sharing my thoughts. And I hope to be able to continue to bring good results, but it's gonna be tough to keep this run going. Thanks for listening.